By the end of this video today, I'm going to give you good proof that you already believe in God. And if you don't already, I'm going to be bolstering the faith that you already have in something beyond. Some call it God, some call it the divine, some call it the universe. I'm really just talking about the source and essence of everything that's ever existed. The place that we refer to when we say things like, everything happens for a reason, or it was meant to be. People say these statements all the time, but then if you were to ask them, oh, do you believe in God then? Oh, no, that's ridiculous. Why would I believe in God? I can't see God. I don't know God exists. Prove to me that God exists. This is the kind of way of thinking that a lot of people have at the moment, even spiritual people. They have this kind of approach that everything needs to be proven, and that having faith is like kids' play. It's like believing in Santa. Why would anyone have faith in something? I need it to be proven to me. And what I'd like to point out to sort of illustrate the flaw in this idea is that so many things in life we have to have faith in. You know, I believe you have thoughts all day, but I could never prove it. I could never prove the thoughts that you have all day long. I couldn't lay them out and say you had this thought at this time, you had this thought at this time. You could tell me what thought you just had, and you could know for certainty that you had that thought. But there's no way, at least at the moment, that I could ever prove to you that that's the case. Same goes for the love that you have for your parents or for your partner. You probably deeply feel that love, but other than expressing it through words, which someone could do if they didn't love you, or showing you with their actions, which again, people could do without actually loving you, there's no way that I could ever prove to you, or you could prove to me, the love that you have for your parents. But you have it, and you experience it, and you know it to be true, but you couldn't prove it. And there are many divine beings and realized souls and advanced spiritual people who have come and said, there is a God, whatever they refer to it as. They might call it something else, but there is something more. Let my life be an example of that. And people say, well, I don't believe it. Prove it to me. And it's like, well, I can't. You know, I can't. Some things you just have to have faith in. You know, when you go traveling, or if you go on holiday, you get in a taxi at the airport perhaps, and you get that taxi to your hotel. You have to have faith when you get into that taxi that he or she is going to take you to the hotel safely. You have faith in that. You have belief in that. If you didn't have belief, you wouldn't get into that hotel or into that taxi, because you'd think that they're going to scam you, or they're going to take you in the wrong direction, or that it's going to be dangerous. But because you have belief in that moment, because you have faith, you get in the taxi. So there's many things in life that we do, and it requires faith before we do them. So many things. And those things are all aspects of the material. They're all aspects of the temporary existence that we're experiencing now. And all of those aspects come from the divine. So we place all of our trust in these temporary experiential things, or people, or material objects. We place a lot of belief in them. And actually, the very essence of them is the divine anyway. So in a sense, in effect, in a roundabout way, we actually believe in God, whether we call it God or not, or whether we know it in that way or not. To some extent, we do have a belief in the divine. We do have a belief in a higher power. And as I touched on at the start, many people will say things like, oh, it just happened for a reason, everything happens for a reason, or it was just meant to be. I just walked around the corner and I met that person, and we exchanged numbers, and they may be a great friend or a great work partner or whatever, and it was just meant to be. People say things like this all the time, but then when you quiz them more closely about it, or you ask them more deeply about their beliefs, their conditioning comes in and says, oh, no, I don't believe in the divine. And I think a lot of it is conditioning. I think a lot of it is what we learn from our parents, or what we get taught through religion that we really dislike. It then dilutes everything about having faith. And I think that's really sad. A lot of people get into perhaps a religion through their family, through their upbringing, and then they see aspects of that religion, which, by the way, are totally man-made, and they don't like the religion, so then they remove all idea of having faith in a divine entity of some sort. And I think that's so sad, because it's the human aspects of the faith that spoiled it all for you in many cases. So part of it is that conditioning. And I think the other part is that nowadays we often have, a lot of people have a very kind of practical, scientific way of looking at things, which has its benefits for sure, but it also has its drawbacks in that, as I'll keep pointing out in this video, there are many things that we can't prove, yet we know them to be true. We know that they exist, but we can't prove them. And science, at least at the moment, doesn't have the instruments and the tools to prove their existence. And I, to be honest, don't think that science ever will be able to prove the existence of God, because I think it's beyond the limitations of instruments that we can create or manufacture within a material realm. I think God is beyond all of that. We're almost existing within the divine, but I think the absolute essence of the divine transcends all material objects, and so I don't believe that we will ever find tools to measure or find the divine. I don't think we can confine the divine to anything that we can create in this material realm. And for that experiential knowing to come about, like all of the spiritual teachings across the world pretty much explain, you have to go within. We have to go within. And I've had many experiences in meditation. I've been meditating since I was very, very young. So my dad was a teacher, a meditation teacher. And I've had quite a few transcended experiences where I've gone beyond what I call body consciousness and tapped into what some people may call universal consciousness or the superconscious mind. And I've had out-of-body experiences in those realms. I can never prove that. But I know without question that there is more now. I know without question that there is much more beyond what we can perceive with the senses. But I can never prove it to you. I don't need to. I try sometimes, and sometimes it works. Some people feel that truth, and some people just reject it. Maybe because it's not the right path for them, which is okay as well. Or maybe because their conditioning is such that we tend to entrench ourselves and dig our heels in to our own belief systems. And admittedly, I'm doing that now. But I have experience which, like I say, with the love that you feel for someone, is so absolute. I know it to be true. I don't need to prove it to you. I just know it. I just know it so deeply. And a lot of this is like, you know, when you remember something, you know, if someone taught you how to do a maths equation and you forgot about it, and then you revisited it 5 years later and you're trying to remember, and then it comes to you and you know it, and it's absolute. There's no questions about it. You've just remembered it. The spiritual path and coming more to the knowledge of the divine is much like that, in that it's remembering who we are. So the knowings that we get along the way are beyond proof. It's within you. And I think a lot of the confusion and the difficulty with trying to assist people on this spiritual path, at least from the point of view of my position as a teacher, I can't prove it, but I hope that I can provide enough tools that you can eventually experience it more yourself. But I do believe that to get from the shore of not knowing to knowing, there is an element of belief that's needed, quite a lot of belief in my experience, in my belief, and at least in the path that I've taken. And I don't want to dismiss all of the paths spiritually, because I do feel like there are other paths, but as far as I believe, this is the easiest one. And the reason that I believe that is that I've been treading it for so long myself, and I've seen how it expands, and I've seen how you start to know things more and more. But also every realized soul, pretty much, and every divine being, every avatar has said that this is the easiest and safest path, is having devotion and belief in God or something else. You don't need to call it God. That puts a lot of people off, which I do understand. So to get from one shore, which is the shore of what they would say in a lot of religious texts, ignorance, i.e. not knowing who we are, to knowing who we are, there's this bridge that needs to be formed, and faith is that bridge. Faith is the thing that says, I don't know what's right now, but I'm going to put my faith in this path, and I'm going to tread this path. And as I tread it, things open up, and I start to know more, and I start to experience more, and eventually I get to the place of the consolidating of these two shores. And as I say, It's very difficult. And one of the things that makes it so difficult is there's the part of us, the ego, which is very happy with us believing that we are this mind and body and that there's nothing beyond. It's very happy with that because its existence relies on that being true. The ego is your sense of identity. It's the sense of singularity, the sense of you being separate from everything and you being a human being and you being who you are. And for that to exist, you can't have faith in something. As soon as you start to have faith in something else, that existence is on very unstable ground now. The ego knows that, and the ego presents a lot of ideas to strengthen the fact that there is not a God. So it's a very, very hard thing for someone to come to is belief. Very hard. But I would like to assure you through my own experience, and this is not dependent on you giving me anything. I don't need anything for me to give you this assurance. I don't want anything from you. People will say, well, you've got an online school that people pay money for. Yeah, I have, but you don't need to attend that school. You don't need to be part of the school. It's there to help people deepen what I teach on the YouTube channel and learn tools, but you don't need to join it. You can learn a lot from my YouTube channel. And my assurance is that I've treaded this path for 25 years probably now, and I've seen how it widens. I've seen how you start to know more. You start to experience more. How the love for the divine, which you all have for your friends and family and parents, that love for the divine expands, and it's a different love. It's more universal, but it does expand. And I believe that to be our nature anyway. I believe that to be our very nature. I can't prove that to you again. You have to kind of just have faith and have a belief that what many people have been telling you over the years, all the books, all the videos, there's got to be something in it. And I've sometimes questioned this logically and sort of said to myself, when I was in the early days and I was developing this belief and feeling probably the same way that many people feel about faith and having a belief in something and needing proof, I just checked it in a more logical way and I said, what am my teacher used to teach me. I said, what's he gaining from this? I didn't have to pay him. He just taught me out of love. What's he getting from me? Nothing. I was giving him nothing. In fact, I was a burden on his time. I was asking him questions all the time. I didn't need to pay him. He just gave me this knowledge out of the desire to help me. Everything that it was developing in me was making me kinder, less egotistical, more accepting of other people, more forgiving, more patient, better at managing myself, my emotions, enabling me to love this thing that I couldn't perceive, God, the divine. And through that love, developing a more universal love for everything else in life. There was nothing negative other than the fact that sometimes it would stir up my ego and these attributes of myself would come out, these emotions, these tendencies, these things that actually needed to be transformed, they needed to come out. And until I understood why they were coming up, it was difficult to put the two paths together. But when I understood that these elements in myself, these emotions and things were coming up to be transformed, and when I did transform them and go to a higher level in my experience as a human being, as a way of describing it, it then made more sense. Oftentimes we don't know the path until we're in a higher position and we can look down. You know, people could tell you the route up Everest. You have to believe them. You have to believe that that path is going to lead to the summit. Every single person that climbs Everest has to believe that the path that someone is taking them up, the Sherpas, leads to the summit. They can't know that path until they start. Until they're at the top and they can look back and say, oh yeah, that is the path with all its twists and turns. And there are other paths up Everest as well, but this is the path that I've chosen. You have to have that, but you have to have that faith. You have to have that belief. And it's got to be just simple, I think. Just this simple, okay, there is something more. I know it within me. I know it. I can't prove it, but I know it. And I'm just going to follow that knowing. And yes, use your intellect to discern. If people are asking loads of money from you, that's a sign that there's ego in it. That's a sign that it's being diluted. A little bit. Yeah, we've got to live in the world. So a little bit of money, I see that okay. I see that as not being a problem because in this day and age, we all have to pay bills. We all have to live. So I don't personally see that as an issue. But if someone's asking for loads of money or getting you to do things that are out of alignment with good characteristics, good virtues, kindness, love, compassion, patience, forgiveness, all these things that we know are correct within ourselves. Again, we can't prove it. If someone says to you, prove to me that patience is the right way of behaving, I can't prove it. Other than the fact that we all know it to be the case. We've all got that conscience that we know it to be the case. So I hope this video is demonstrating enough that there are so many aspects to life that we have to put our faith into without having proof. But through living in alignment to that path, or those virtues, or that way of living, we start to know that it's right. And I hope that through watching this video, you can either see how you've been following a path already and that it's right, and that you've already had a belief in the divine through your belief in everything in the world that is a manifestation of the divine. And if not, I hope that it gives you something to think about at the very least. And I fully respect your decisions. If you listen to this video and you think, yeah, nice talk, Ben, I still don't believe in more, fair enough. Fair enough. I can only respect that. I don't want my channel to be one of confrontation and me forcing my opinions so strongly in a way that I'm like, you've got to believe in this. But I'm hopefully just expressing what I've experienced in a way that gives you something else to think about and perhaps opens up the door to you treading a path that feels right for you. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching as always. Love you, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers.